With the reserve list market slowing down, you're probably looking for a good deal on some great cards. Buyers and sellers are having trouble meeting in the middle, but remember, there's only so many reserve list cards out there, and here are some cards you should be watching. There's a lot of profit to be made buying into a weak market. Welcome back, everyone. MTG Moxman here. Thanks for hanging out with me on the channel today on another episode of Reserve List Cards to Watch. You know, when I look at the reserve list right now, and I see all these cards down 50, 60%, not the top tier reserve list cards, those are just kind of dead floating there in space and nobody wants to touch them. But those lower end reserve list cards, the mid tier stuff that people may be interested in, but they want a better deal. They want a real savings. 50% off is not good enough for them. They want even more than that. They want to go back to 2019. And they want to buy the cards at those prices. And that's understandable. Because when you see things falling, you're waiting for that fire sale. And those who do not have strong financial positions and they have weaker hands, they're going to crumble. They will have to sell off at some point because they can't hold on any longer. Maybe they made some bad deals, bad investments, who knows. But when you buy into a weak market, if you're able to get some deals that you find acceptable and you say, man, that Underground Sea, heavily played for like $500, that seems like a pretty good deal to me. You know, and you buy that card because you have the liquidity to do so. It's not a risk for you. This is okay. You've got $500 spare that you're not going to miss. So you buy that card. Do you think it's really going to stay at $500 when you know it's already been at 1,000? 800, 900 for moderate to heavily played back then? Is the market going to stay down forever? That's how short-sighted people can be in the Magic community. They forget what things were. They go with the now. Oh, this is what it is now. Things go in cycles. They go up and down. The world's in a crazy place right now. And it's that craziness that leads to uncertainty in people's minds. And they take a step back. And most people won't do a thing. They won't buy into markets. They just stay the course and say, this is where I'm going to be. But there will be a few mavericks out there. Few brave souls who go into that deep water even when things are bad. And they just keep buying and buying and buying. Where do you think they end up as long as they've got the liquidity? As long as they can hold on long enough? What do you think their returns are like? It's just my opinion though. What do I know? I never graduated Magic University, did I? So on today's episode of Cards to Watch Reserve List Edition, we're going to take a look at some awesome cards. I'll let you know what I think about them because this is a crazy time. And some of these cards may become a lot cheaper. Others might be at the bottom they're already at before they start to creep up. Remember, it's a big ocean out there still, and there are a lot of whales out there who can afford that liquidity and are just waiting for weak hands to crumble. So let's go ahead and take a look at some amazing reserve list cards on today's episode of Reserve List Cards to Watch. Alright guys, so we're starting out here today in Legends with Knowledge Vault, a forecasting cost generic amazing artifact. That's right, it's 2 and tap. Take a card from your library without looking at it and place it face down under Knowledge Vault. Sacrifice the Knowledge Vault to discard your hand and take the cards under the vault into your hand. If Knowledge Vault leaves play, then all cards end up in your graveyard. Okay, so when you look at this card has been as high as around $150. So right now we're about 50% off. That is a pretty good deal for a Legends card that came out in 1994 for near mint. You can find these on places like TCG Player for like $50 for the heavily played copies if you just wanted one to have. But when I look at this old school stuff, and of course I love Amy Weber's artwork, I look and say that's a pretty good deal. This card does have some playability depending on how you build your commander deck and what you're willing to do to make cards like this work for you. But older school artifacts can literally go into any deck because they were just really kind of powerful cards back then. This card has a lot of uses depending on how you're building your deck. Sometimes you might just want to cycle cards out, and depending on the order in which you draw and put cards, imagine like with a Sylvan Library and using this, just put land under or do something else to get these cards out of your way. This can be a great card to play in older school matches as well as in Commander. I like this card. $72.99. That is a steal. It's around $90 here in Canada, by the way, for a lightly played copy. And you're looking here at €61.25 to get that card into your house if you're overseas. And of course, the market's $75.86 US. I really think cards like this will have future uses and will reach a lot higher levels than what they're at now. But these weird kind of janky cards like this, people don't always remember them. And when they see them, they're always kind of shocked. I like the feel of cards like this. It reminds me of easier days, right? Now our next card is going to be Life Matrix. Again, a 4 generic cost artifact from way back in the day of Legends. This one I always enjoyed because it allowed me to put regeneration counters on any creature I wanted, okay? Pay 4 and tap, and during your upkeep, put 1 counter on a target creature. You may remove that counter from the creature at any time to regenerate that creature. You can put regeneration on any creature you want without even playing green or the types of cards you normally had to associate with the regeneration ability. So having it in a generic type of artifact meant that anybody could play it on any deck they wanted. It can go anywhere. And look at the price. This thing has always kind of been that like $100 level. It hasn't really changed that much. But again, as the weaker hands start to fold, and some people may have picked these up, or the bigger fish who want to sell into something else or need liquidity themselves, this card will slowly have that race to the bottom. I'm not saying buy this card now. I'm saying if it's a card that interests you, just follow it for a while. Check back on some of my videos. Ask me about updates. I'll be happy to check for you to see where it's at. I think this card is actually going to start dipping down a little bit further every few months until it finds a new bottom. This is one of those cards where people just aren't paying attention. People have lost interest in it since 2021, and it's just going to keep going down. Because if you look before 2021, this card was like $30-40. So let's see where this card ends up as people kind of ignore it and it moves along. Unless, of course, you watch this channel, then you probably know about it. Now, our next card, Nova Pinnacle. I've talked about this card until I was blue in the face. I love this card. It has so many uses. Again, Legends, forecasting cost generic. Redirecting damage to one creature is so much fun, guys. Okay? I like it. Other opponents won't like it, especially if you have no creatures in play. Right? If you have none of your creatures, you gotta choose one of their creatures. It can be hilarious. So, a lot of fun to use it. The average price is $68.49 US. The market price is $75.94 US. And it's €57.97 to get this card in your house. It reached about $140. It's been falling ever since. I've been tracking it because I myself would like to get a play set. I like to have 4 of everything, so I'd like to get 3 more. But I'm going to have to wait. I think it's going to fall another few percentage points over the next couple of months, and I'm not in a rush to buy it. I'm the one with the liquidity. I can wait to see where this card goes. I'm willing to pay higher later on if I had to, but I'm also hoping it's going to go a lot lower. So we'll see where this card goes in the future. Again, if it's a card you're after, keep an eye on it. It's not at a bad price now. $68 US is a pretty fair price. It's about $90 here in Canada. But I remember before 2021, this card was like $30-40. So keep an eye on it, guys. I think we got some room for this one to still fall down and pick it up later at a bit better of a bargain. Now our next card, Badlands. That's right, revised edition. This one actually is falling a little bit. Just enough that I'm noticing it. I've noticed some stores that put a little bit cheaper for sale. The average price is $466 US. If you're looking for one here in Canada, by the way, just like a play copy, heavily played, moderately played, they're still around 550 Canadian. Depending if you have any discount codes and stuff to use, you can check my description if you're looking for those. I do have a few discount codes available at various retailers you can use. I get no kickbacks for those, but it does help out. If you're buying on TCG Player, of course, go ahead and use my affiliate link. It helps out the channel. When I see the market price here at $462.07 US, you see how the prices are actually really close. This card is just ticking down a bit right now. And that doesn't mean that the reserve list market is weak. It just means this card's not having as much desirability because things like Savannah and Taiga are actually going up a bit. So I'm keeping an eye out to see where this particular card goes. I would love to get 1 or 2 to add to the Patreon box. So we'll see. I'm willing to track this one down. Again, a card I'm not going to tell you guys to buy, just to keep an eye out for. All right, here we go, Taiga. Next card up. This one here stayed fairly steady, regardless of what we're seeing here on the charts. Locally, it's still selling, and the sales online are still about the same. This card has not really changed price, regardless of what that chart in front of you is saying. The average price is $409.97 US. The market is 403, again, very close together. €243.97 to get that card to your house. You can find near mint copies in Canada for $500 Canadian, but we do remember when these things were about $200 Canadian too. I am tracking it because the sales are strong and it's actually staying consistent in price, but if it slows down and somebody has bought quite a few copies of this over the last couple of years, they might be needing that liquidity, which means the price might go down a couple of percentage points. This is a good time to buy if it goes down just another like 10%. So keep an eye on this card if it's a card you're after. I myself got the last copy I needed for my playset, so I'm cool. But if you're one of the people looking for this card, you might be getting to that buy spot. It might be at the sweet spot depending on how you feel about that card. Our next one up here is Guardian Beast. All right. I love the Beast. You guys know that. Part of my Arabian Nights collection. I've had it since I was a kid. This is an amazing card from Arabian Nights. And there's a few Arabian Nights cards in the queue today because there's some interesting stuff going on with Arabian Nights, reserve list and non-reserve list. So here you see the average price is $957.60. The market is $743.33. It's €600 to get this card in your house. It's around $1,300 Canadian depending on where you're shopping, okay? This one here is coming down in price. Okay, I'm shocked. Considering the low production numbers of cards like Guardian Beast in Arabian Nights, I really thought most of these cards were going to hold that value for a much longer period of time. But I've seen some copies go into the market, mostly heavily played, moderately played, and they have been selling and people have been buying them. But if this market continues this way, it's going to attract some very big sharks and they're going to come and gobble these up. Because if you can find this card for like $800 Canadian, even I'd be buying a copy. I would find a way to buy a copy if it was in good enough condition, because these cards are just so rare and so unique, and you just can't say enough. Like, it's so iconic to even see it. So this stuff here with Arabian Nights is something people have got to pay attention to if you're a collector investor. Arabian Nights are disappearing just like Alpha is, and the Alpha cards out there that are super expensive, Arabian Nights is going that route, and to see cards like this fall in price is very peculiar. It makes me think a few people out there just couldn't hold on. So keep an eye on a Guardian Beast. If it's a card you're after, you might be hitting your sweet spot. Now, Elephant Graveyard, another card that has been coming down in price and becoming a little more reasonable. I'm tracking this card myself because I do need one for my collection. So I'm sitting there going, this is getting pretty attractive for a lot of people. A couple of people I personally know did buy some off of a Facebook group, and they were very happy with the purchase. I think they got them for about $380 Canadian, which is cheaper than what we're seeing here in the market, although they weren't near mint, but still a pretty good deal to be had. And there's enough elephants out there that these are kind of fun to have around. Regenerating elephants is always fun. Average price is $393.12 US. That market is $394.99 US. This is, again, one of those slower cards to sell. As the price creeps down a bit, in the Arabian Nights era, it makes me think, you know, somebody bought a few extra copies and is just giving them up now. They probably still made a pretty tidy profit. This card was like, you know, $100, $130 before 2021. You know, it's been a couple of years. They'll still see some pretty good returns. I think they're probably just cashing in to get some equity out. All right, now our next one, Library of Alexandria. This one's a little weird for me, guys, okay? A near mint copy here says it is $6,999. That's gibberish. I can find them locally for $2,400. Yeah, they might be inked a bit or something, but it's still $2,400 or less, okay, depending on where you're looking. It says the market price, though, is $2,000.50. Remember the limited formats a card like this can play in. They banned it in Commander, which they shouldn't have, and you can't do much with it. But it's an iconic piece of Magic history. It's vintage, old school. You can still play with this thing, okay, guys? It just can't be played in Commander, which does limit it for some players who might be interested in a card like this. Seeing this card now, you can see it's just starting to etch up a bit because it had been dropping for quite a while. But it's still nowhere near its previous lows of 2021. I've been tracking this card very carefully. I have a few friends on some Facebook groups give me some feedback on cards like this. There's not a lot of copies out there. There are a few people who actually collect copies of this card and just hoard them. I don't know what will happen with those collections one day, but right now, they're still after more. So when they find cheap ones, they do buy them, I know. So Keep an eye on this card. If it's a card you're after, you're at a pretty good spot right now to buy it. Our next card is Drop of Honey. Now, Drop of Honey is just starting to fall in price. If it hits a little bit lower than what it is right now, this is going to tell me to buy this card. I have a few friends who picked up cards recently for this one. Now, there's Professary Nodes. I think that's the white version of this, which is technically a version of a reprint, I guess, that they shouldn't have done. But it's in a different entire mana color, so I get it. You can find cheap alternatives to a Drop of Honey, but there's just something about this card and being used in green. It's like having Ice Storm in green that has land destruction. It can throw people off. It's a great card to have around, and building anti-creature decks, building those circle decks we've talked about in Commander and having cards like this in it can just mess people up. It's so much fun. And I think this price is actually going to fall down a little bit further, so I'm keeping an eye on that one for you. I'll let you know if any good deals come up. All right. Tawnos' Coffin. Epic card. Been falling in price. Definitely on the watch thing. This is a good time to buy this card. Forecasting cost generic. Remove creatures from play. Save your own creatures. Take opponents' creatures. Whatever you want to do. Love the card from Antiquities. And we have Brothers War coming up. We got Dominaria United. We got things that make this card attractive to people. And it's got high playability. I love the card. When I see this out there, I'm sitting there going, it just keeps falling. And when it falls like that, it makes it attractive. I have a couple myself. You think I wouldn't pay a couple $100 to finish off 2 more and finish a playset? That's what I'd be thinking right now. This is a card that's in a good position to buy. Keep an eye out if it's a card you want. If you can find one, I'd definitely be picking this card up in my opinion. Now, Dampening Field. This one here some people ask me about. It's had significant sales lately. A lot of jumping up and down. Forget the little spike you see there. It reached like $75 and it comes crashing down hard. That was early 2021 when everything was being bought everywhere and the world had gone crazy and loving the reserve list. Dampening Field can be a very versatile card if you're doing an anti-artifact deck. If you're not playing a lot of artifacts, this is a card you'd want to have in there. And at these cheap prices, why don't people buy it? It's old. It's reserve list, and you can find it for like $30 Canadian. This is a card I think I bought 1 or 2 copies already. I'll probably buy a couple more for the Patreon box, and I'll find a near mint one for myself. All right, and the last card we're going to talk about today on the channel is going to be Argivian Archaeologist. Now, this one had to buy it. We talked a couple of weeks back. When you're looking at a card like this, you can see it's really just, it's starting to jump up right now. Average price is $269.69 US. 264 is the market, 71 cents. Here in Canada, you're looking at like $350. And of course, it's €206.37 to get that card into your house. Now, when you're talking about Argivian Archaeologist, people were asking me, like, how good is the card? That's up for you to decide. I use it in some of my old school stuff. I used to like bringing back Chaos Orb and messing around with people. When you look at that card, he himself is a 1/1 for 3. Yeah, he can bring back an artifact each turn. Great. It's kind of fun to do. But for $350, there are other cards I would be buying. Okay? $350, there's some other reserve list cards I would rather hit up because I already have a couple of Argivian Archaeologists. I don't need more. I understand if somebody wanted to get one, you know, it's still a pretty high price. I think this will settle back down. I would not be buying this card right now. I'd be waiting the 90 days, see if the card falls back down to earth, or see whoever bought it continues to buy more. Because I know a few more are disappearing off the market. Somebody's trying to consolidate a position. It was 58 copies that sold. Since then, 8 more. I'm in the 60s now, mid-60s. And I'll follow up on the end of the weekend to see if I have any more information coming up. That's still a lot of copies sold. That's huge for a card like this to just evaporate from the market like that. And I noticed a lot of eBay sellers already changed their pricing. I saw a near mint one that was like $650 when they put it up for sale. Like, there's a couple of high people out there putting some very nice copies up. They're really expensive, guys. I would not be buying them at that price. I would wait for them to come down. A lot of these cards are to watch because they may hit a new low, which will make them very attractive, or hit that price point that is attractive for some people to get their hands on. Argivian is a fun card for me. I love the card. I've always enjoyed it. Is it $600 enjoyment? It's a collector piece. And it can have some good play value if you're just having some fun. But he's not going to be a mainstay piece if I was building a competitive deck, is he? He's just a fun card to have around. I love him. I love playing with him. Bring me back my Chaos Orb each and every turn and blow something up was our house rule. Awesome times. So guys, thanks a lot for tuning in today on Cards to Watch. I hope you guys had a great time. Don't forget to leave some comments in the comment section below. And of course, give this video a thumbs up so we can let everyone know how awesome a time we had today. Thanks again for tuning in. Let me know what you guys think. I'll talk to you tomorrow. Hey, a big shout out goes out to each and every one of the fantastic people who support my channel each and every day on my Patreon, my YouTube membership. Thank you so much, everyone. I look forward to seeing you all on the weekend. Yesterday was just brutal. I got nothing else to say. Brutal.